everyone, my name is Emily Cloudman and I am the school president of DeLand High School. Today I'll be reading you chapter 39. John opened his canister of plastic eating goo and flung all that was left of it at the second Zachary. But the slime only hit his pineapple fiber suit and fell to the floor. Zachary laughed out loud. "You won't find me to be as foolish as my brother. I am an upgraded model. I am much smarter than my prototype and far smarter than our original creator, the fantastically ridiculous Dr. Neil Flax." As if one cue, Lando Calrissian flapped up and up to the ceiling and began a nosedive, pointing right at the second Zachary, who tried to grab the thermometer out of the air, but it flew up again to prepare for another dive. Another one of the doctor's silly toys. It's time for Flax Industries to disregard foolish things and prepare for its greatest era. That is why, children, you will forfeit your shares of Flax Industries so that I can get to work. The second Zachary removed yet another copy of the contract from his pineapple leather pocket, a pen from another, and presented them both to Teresa and John. "We're not signing that," John said, ready to fight. Although his face was hidden behind a pineapple mesh mask, they could see the second brother's smile curl up in his manufactured face. "I didn't expect you to, but you see, the thing about us Flaxes is that we let nothing stand in the way of our purpose. We will have this laboratory even if the others must die. Do you two have such conviction? Would you have this laboratory even if your father had to die, Miss Brown? Because if you don't sign this contract, this pluff mud trunk will fill to the top, and your father will drown in mud like your mother. Poetic? No." Zachary pressed the button on the remote control. Soon they heard a gurgling sound from the pluff mud trunk. The mud began to rise. "Don't listen to him, Teresa. He's bluffing," George Brown yelled from inside the trunk, but Teresa was quite sure Zachary was not. John and even Marie Curie were frozen with fear. Zach's gamble was indeed correct. Teresa would certainly not let her father die for something as small as a laboratory, no matter how big and wonderful it might be. "Okay," she cried, "please stop. Let my father out." "Sign the forfeiture first," Zachary demanded, thrusting the paper and pen in her direction. The trunk continued to fill with mud as Teresa took the pen and scribbled her name on the contract as quickly as she could. She gave the paper to John. He wrote his name on it too. "Thank you, children," Zachary said, taking the paper. Then he pressed the button on the remote and the pluff mud tank popped open, spilling mud over the top as George Brown grabbed a hold of the sides and tried to lift himself out. Teresa and John had to pull up on his arms to help him out because pluff mud is some of the stickiest, most tenacious stuff on earth. George Brown got himself to his feet. Then he calmly walked up to the second Zachary and without a single word punched him right in the gut. A very long moment passed. Zachary did not budge an inch as the same creepy smile spread across his face. George Brown took one step back and slowly opened his fingers, cringing with immense pain. "I think I may have broken a finger," he said. "Another evolutionary advantage of robots," Zachary said proudly. "We are made of much stronger stuff than flesh. Now, this laboratory is no longer yours, and you are not welcome here. I will accompany you to the exit, and then unwanted guests, you will never, ever return." The hole inside her began to grow. The fun of the laboratory was gone. The hope to stop hurricanes had been squashed. She felt once again like an awkward girl who couldn't talk to others and was weird for tinkering with robots all the time. What could she do? She couldn't stop Zachary and Ashley. She wanted to find Dr. Flax to at least give him the chance to save this beautiful laboratory from the monster he had created. But she failed. The hole filled her entirely, and wanting nothing more to run home and lock herself in the bedroom forever. "Let's go," she said quietly, even as she heard John softly protest behind her. "I'm a loser after all," she thought. But then she heard a familiar sound above her head, coming from the roof. Clickety, clickety, click, click, clickety, clickety, click, click. It stopped. Teresa steeled herself where she stood and forced herself not to look up. A spark of hope reignited inside her. A small light of possibility began to shine. She knew what she had to do. She had to give the best speech of her life. The hole began to shrink. Mr. Flax, if I may, I'd like to point out that you've made one fatal mistake. Oh, really? Zachary said, entirely amused by Teresa's sudden boldness. Do tell, little girl. You've underestimated Ashley Dean. You think that by getting rid of John and me, you can manipulate her. You think she'll stand by and help you replicate yourself by just offering her a bigger room? But you're completely wrong. You don't know Ashley Dean like I do. Ashley's a scientist, one on a mission. She wants to feed the world, and you can bet she'll do it. She's the smartest psychologist I've ever met. Zachary scoffed, but Teresa wouldn't let that stop her. Once she realized that you don't care about her, she'll boot you right out the front door, because Ashley Dean wants real friends with real ideas who can help her save this planet. A good scientist may spend a lot of alone time thinking and reading, but a real inventor needs partners. Working together with other scientists is how you really solve the world's problems. I want to be Ashley's friend. She may not want to be mine or John's, and she may never invite us back into this laboratory, but I'll always think of her as my friend. That's something you're missing from your programming. You can't replicate yourself a million times, but you'll never be enough for yourself. You need friends, and you know it. That's why you're malfunctioning. You're angry and jealous and think you're better than everyone else, but you can't stand to be alone either. You think you have to destroy this world before you can create your own. I'm sorry for you, but I will do everything I can to protect Ashley from you, even if I'm never allowed back to Flax Industries again. Zachary's plastic face never changed during her whole speech. Are you quite finished, Miss Brown? She thought about it. Yes, she said. It took every bit of willpower Teresa had not to look up to the skylight as Bonnie's two tethered grappling hooks slowly descended. Good. I must admit, you have quite the way with words, Miss Brown, Zachary said sarcastically. They drip like honey, full of sweet sentiment. But what you failed to realize is that Miss Dean is a very simple creature, jealous and vain and weak. She envied your big laboratory, so I gave it to her. She envied your first place ribbon, so I told her she was the best of you. And more than anything, she wants her parents to love her. Isn't that so adorable? So I gave her a big press conference and invited her parents on stage to watch a crowd of strangers clap and cheer her name. That's all it took. Now the owner of Flax Industries is an easily manipulated little girl content to play with pond scum. She believes she is a winner, when really she is nothing but a puppet whose strings I pull whenever I please. I'm the one who makes her dance and jump, because here, Miss Brown, the most important invention in this laboratory is me. Teresa and her father and John and Miss Curie stood frozen as the grappling hooks lowered into their view. They hung right at Zachary's shoulders. Then Ashley used the hooks to snag Zachary by his hazmat suit and slowly reeled him upward. Zachary struggled into the air, dangling inches above the ground. Teresa pumped her fist, yes, as Ashley grabbed a hold of the zip lines and slid down them to join them all on the floor. She turned to face Zachary, who looked like an angry puppet himself, dancing and jumping, helplessly twirling in circles. I heard everything you said, Mr. Flax, but there's one important thing you forgot. Zachary tried desperately to unzip the suit he was wearing so he could escape it. And what is that, you conceited brat? You're right, that I get too jealous for my own good. But one thing is for sure, I won't let anyone, human or robot, distract me from my mission to feed the world with Ashley Dean's eligible algae. And I think Teresa and John are far more likely to help me make that possible than you, Mr. Zachary Flax. Teresa and John began to smile, and Zachary, dangling in the air, could do nothing but kick his feet. And one more thing, Ashley said. My parents do expect a lot from me, and they would be quite disappointed in me if I ever bullied someone into signing a legal contract. Ashley turned, picking up the paper that Teresa and John had just signed, and ripped it not once, but twice. Teresa couldn't help herself. She hugged Ashley as hard as she could, and even though it was awkward and strange for her, Ashley hugged Teresa right back. John put out his hand to Ashley. "That was really cool," he said. Ashley smiled, and they shook on it. Zach began to laugh manically. Do you think," Zachary sputtered as he kicked his feet, "do you think that you've stopped me? Do you think that ripping up a piece of paper is enough to stop the course of evolution? Do you think that Zachary Flax is finished? There is more than one way to take control of this laboratory. If I must, I will kill every last one of you. That includes you, Ashley Dean. Let me down so I can squash you like the little annoying bugs you are." Then Miss Curie's green eyes began to glow with a bright green light. "What did you say, Mr. Flax?" Zachary had stopped trying to unzip himself and was now strangling in the air, with his hands kicking and thrusting forward as he swayed back and forth. "I said I will murder Ashley Dean." Miss Curie set poor Thomas down and turned to face Zachary Flax. She rose up to stand tall on her single wheel. "I am programmed to protect the owner of Flax Industries, and as the good doctor is currently incapacitated, that means I must protect the current owners of this laboratory at all costs. Those owners are Miss Teresa Brown, Miss Ashley Dean, and Mr. John Cooper. You may not threaten them with harm." "You nothing but a talking wheelbarrow, Marie. I will destroy all of you." With that, Miss Curie calmly unbuttoned her laboratory coat, reached across her front, and opened herself like a cabinet. 5 squirming segmented tentacles made of stainless steel untangled themselves from her chest and stretched out before her. They looked like 5 arms of a giant starfish. She stepped up to Zachary, embraced him, and pulled his dangling body to her. Then she squeezed. "I've tried so hard to love you, brother," she said. Zachary continued to laugh, even as Miss Curie's tentacles squeezed the very last air he had in his mechanical lungs. "You can't love," he wheezed. "It's not in your programming." "That's true," Miss Curie admitted, as Zachary's plastic and steel body began to crack and crunch. "But I'm evolving the best I can." Then she squeezed him even harder until finally the golden light in his eyes flickered and went out. She dropped his broken robot corpse to the ground. Then she sighed. "I will miss him," she said, turning quickly away, unable to bear the sight of what she had done. "Is that robot dead?" Teresa's father asked, approaching carefully and prodding Zachary's crushed torso with his foot. "If a robot can die, then he's dead," Miss Curie said, quietly. "But unlike humans, a dead robot can be fixed. I hope he will be fixed someday. He was the most ambitious of the doctor's children. He wanted to replace human beings with millions of himself," John said. "True," Miss Curie said. "He did prefer himself to others. Perhaps his ego meter was turned up a bit too high." Miss Curie's tentacles receded into her chest as she buttoned her lab coat up to her neck. Then she proceeded to lift Thomas Edison and place him in the rocking chair. "I do have good news. Now that my youngest brother has been turned off, I think it's safe for me to turn my oldest brother back on." "You fixed him?" Teresa asked, coming closer to get a better look at the tiny robot, wrapped tightly in his winter coat, pants, and gloves. "Indeed," she said, "but Zachary would never have allowed me to give life back to Thomas. They simply couldn't get along. Thomas saw Zachary as a threat to her father's work, and Zachary was intensely jealous of her father's love for Thomas. But now," she said, "I think it's quite all right." Miss Curie reached into the back of Thomas's neck and flipped a switch. His once dark eyes now flared with electric blue light. He jumped off the chair, looking desperately left and right. "Where is father?" he asked. The onthometer began to circle around Thomas's head. "He's here," Thomas said happily. "He is?" Teresa asked. "He's alive?" John asked. "He is," Ashley said. "I should have said something earlier, but I was scared of what Zachary might do if I didn't do as he said. You know, I only agreed to his plan if he promised not to hurt Dr. Flax." "How could you have trusted him?" John said, but Teresa grabbed his arm before he could get any angrier with Ashley. He threatened me. He threatened my parents, Ashley said quietly, all her arrogance gone now. Miss Curie said not to worry. Ashley turned carefully towards Miss Curie. Right? Miss Curie nodded. A contract made under threat is a horrible thing, as you and your parents know. But not to worry. I was programmed to protect Dr. Flax. Even when you became the temporary owner of Flax Industries, he was always here, guiding us in spirit. Like a ghost or something? John asked. Something like that, Miss Curie said. She unlocked the plain white doors and opened it. Lando Calrissian flew through the entrance with Thomas running quickly behind. Miss Curie waved her hand to the door. Go on, she said. He's been asleep for some time.